Hello, welcome to the Liverpool FC Journal, guys. You can tell not home, but still bringing you daily content, still bringing you as much news as we possibly can here on the channel. Thank you for your phenomenal support over the last 24 hours, 40 hours. Channel's grown really well. We've gone from 46 subscribers to 53 as we continue our journey towards 1,000. So obviously, if you want free daily content, we don't charge you for any of this content, guys. Never will. Won't hide stuff behind paywalls. Won't have pay tiers. So smash that sub, ring that notification bell, and help us to continue to grow. Right, look, it is Leeds tomorrow, New Year's Day, 5:30 kickoff at home against a new promoted Leeds, who, you know what, since they've changed formation, have certainly become a tougher proposition all round. We'll touch on that near the end of the video. But first of all, we're going to talk about the centre-backs at this moment in time. Now, we brought you news of Joel Ordonez yesterday. Fantastic response to that video. Thank you for that. Liverpool, according to reports this morning, still leading the race to sign Ordonez if that interest is indeed genuine. He certainly looks a very good player and someone that Liverpool should be interested in. Now, there could be complications not only around Ibou Konate, and we'll speak a little bit about that in a moment, but also around Marc Guehi. Now, both of those players obviously are out of contract at the end of the season, and as such, as of tomorrow, that's right, the 1st of January 2026, guys. Thank God that this year is coming to an end. On a personal level, that is, on a personal level. Obviously, on a club level, we've won the league, so that's a good positive. But look, I think, looking at the situation as it stands today, both of those players can, as of the 1st of January, speak to clubs outside of England, as can Andy Robertson, of course. I certainly hope that something can be agreed with Robbo and we can offer him a new contract. Now, I'd keep Robbo on for at least another year to 18 months, 2 years. Definitely look at that extension on his deal. Now, look, I think the situation is what it is. Both of them can obviously talk to foreign clubs, and obviously foreign clubs are going to take an interest in those players. Now, Manchester City are, of course, a club in England, so they can't talk to Marc Guehi about a move in the summer. However, there are a number of stories doing the rounds this morning that Manchester City have moved ahead of Liverpool in the race to sign Marc Guehi, with Crystal Palace viewing City as a more attractive option for them rather than the player. Now, Palace are sort of reticent to sell in January and want to keep hold of their captain until the end of the season. However, it is felt with a substantial bid and perhaps an asset or two heading in the other direction that this deal could be there for the doing. Now, Manchester City obviously have a larger squad than us and have a number of players that they could offer Palace, along with some money, in exchange for the England international Marc Guehi. Now, although obviously Guehi nearly signed for Liverpool last summer, a deal that should have been done much earlier in the window. I think the club certainly missed a trick there and really did need to get that deal done. I think mid-window or start of the window. I honestly believe the missing out on Guehi has really cost us this season, especially defensively, where we've looked absolutely dreadful. And look, we all know there's a complete lack of defensive options there. Now, it was been reported earlier this month that Liverpool wouldn't move for Guehi in January and would wait till the summer to secure the player. However, could they be forced into that with this latest news that Manchester City may well move for the player in January with other assets being offered to Palace? Now, it's felt that Palace will only let Guehi go if they can find a replacement. Now, look, you can say, well, Guehi wants to go to Liverpool. Yeah, I think there is a desire there from Guehi to go to Liverpool. However, Manchester City is not exactly an unattractive proposition, and could they in fact beat us to another player if we were ever in for Semenyo? I mean, the rumours certainly seem to indicate that we were. Now, missing out on Guehi, I think, would be a massive, massive error for the club and be a huge mistake on what is an exceptionally talented footballer, a guy who I think could come in and make an instant difference for Liverpool this season if the move could be secured in January. But it's certainly worrying news that Manchester City appear to be moving ahead, obviously along with the reports that a number of clubs on the continent, including Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, all have made inquiries about Marc Guehi as well and may well start speaking to him as of tomorrow. Now, look, in terms of Ibou Konate, is apparently there is a report out from a number of sources, including some people like Lewis Steele, for example, Paul Gorst, etc., stating that the the amount of money that Konate is looking for is exceptionally high, that he wants to be considered on the same sort of level, pay-wise, as the Salahs and Van Dijks of this world, with figures bandied around of between £275,000 and £300,000 a week. Even up to 350,000 I've heard on some sources. Now, how reliable they are, I don't know. But look, I think we can all agree that there's no way on this God's green earth that Ibou Konate is worth 300,000 or even £275,000 a week. The guy makes far too many mistakes, and he is consistently inconsistent. And it appears that has cost him his move to Real Madrid, with officials at Madrid not only being put off by his high wage demands in terms of his ability and relating the two together, but also from a report compiled by their chief scout that said the report acknowledges the player's physical attributes. Look, he is a big physical guy, but also notes his inconsistency, lack of focus, which tends to him making serious mistakes. Look, I think, they couldn't have put it any better. That is very, very true. He is a player who, yes, is a big physical guy, but does make some absolutely ridiculous mistakes and does lose concentration in games, which lead to goals, which lead to chances, which lead to, obviously set piece issues as well around the player. And I think, there's certainly a worry there. Now, there was reports also that obviously the Konate's people were looking at trying to move him back to Madrid, that Madrid was an option. But like I said, that seems to be dying a death now. But look, clubs like Bayern Munich still looking for centre-halves by all account. PSG could well be interested in bringing the French captain back to France. So there's a number of clubs obviously there. Now, the situation is that his contract talks are pretty much stalled. There is no progress there, with a kind of impossibility between the two, that one wants a massively high wage, a wage the club are not prepared to offer. There was even some reports at the start of December that Liverpool offered a take it or leave it deal to Konate. Sources close to Liverpool now suggest that he may well move on at the end of the season. That is the expectancy within the club, that Konate will leave for nothing once the season concludes. Look, as much as I would want him to stay, I think he would be a good third option. I don't think he is a top-class starter. I think someone like Marc Guehi comes in, or a Schlotterbeck comes in, would instantly replace him. They're both better players than Konate. However, I think, I would not be devastated if the player leaves. He's not a player that I would go, oh my God, I can't believe he's leaving. Certainly you could look at the likes of Dom Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch, Alisson Becker, Hugo Ekitike. You'd certainly be devastated if they moved on. But I don't think you'd be absolutely devastated if Ibou Konate moves on at the end of the season. I think there are better players out there we can get. There are better centre-backs that can be recruited. I'd even put Joel Adoniez as potentially one of those, as it could be a lot better than Konate in the long run. So look, that's the situation as it presents itself. But look, whatever the situation with centre-backs, the situation at Liverpool is absolutely dire now. We've got Van Dijk, who is 34, who has not been as good this season as he is in past seasons. You've got Ibou Konate, who is head's gone at times. Leone gone for the season. Gomez, who the hell knows who Gomez, the guy just is. Look, I love Joe Gomez to bits, and the guy deserves all the respect in the world because he is a top class player. And I think had he stayed fit, he could have been alongside Virgil, our top centre back. But obviously, all those injuries have cost the player. So look, the situation is that we haven't got realistically a core squad of centre-backs. We need a centre-back in January, and I think it is absolutely fundamental that the club secure a centre-back in January. The failure to do so, I think, would be criminal and almost tantamount to throwing the season away. So look, it is what it is, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on the centre-back issue at Liverpool presently. Now, Liverpool take on Leeds United on Thursday on New Year's Day, a 5:30 kickoff at Anfield. Obviously, Arne Slot spoke to the media today. But look, it is going to be a game that will be tougher than I think a lot of people expect. Leeds, yes, are a newly promoted team. Leeds this season are not doing great. They're 16th in the table. They've played 18 games. They've won 5. They've drawn 5, lost 8. They've scored 25, conceded 32. They've got a -7 goal difference. However, they are unbeaten in their last 5 games. 2 wins and 3 draws in those games. Obviously, last time up they drew with Sunderland 1-1. Guys, perhaps worth noting that beating Wolves 2-1 is not as bad as we maybe thought it was after they held Manchester United to a draw. And we saw several Manchester United fans, including that prick Angry Ginge, losing his rag over it. But look, you look across their last few results and they've done reasonably well. They've done reasonably well. 1-1. Obviously with Sunderland, as I mentioned last time out. Prior to that, they won 4-1 at home against Palace, a 1-1 away at Brentford. 3-3 against us. We know all about that game. We don't need to talk about it. 3-1 at home against Chelsea. They went to Manchester City, didn't exactly disgrace themselves, only losing 3-2, only lost 2-1 to Villa as well. So look, they have recently turned things round and do look a better side. Now, they have had changed formation. Looked at playing 3 at the back, but injury to Joe Rodon sort of kind of changed that. They had to revert back to a back 4 against Sunderland when Tanaka came on for the injured Rodon. Now Rodon will be out by all accounts, so there's a chance that they could go back to the back 4. They've got a decent midfield as well, a hard-working midfield. I think having Dom Szoboszlai back will be a huge boost to Liverpool. I think we did miss him against Wolves. His energy, his box-to-box, his go anywhere, do anything kind of way of playing. Now, their midfield of Stack, Ampadu and Aronson, or it could even be Stack, Ampadu and Tanaka, are good, hard-working guys. They're a fit midfield. They will run and run and run, as we saw in the game against us at Elland Road. They went to 3-3. Liverpool have got a lot of obviously injury concerns going into this game. Now, there's obviously, as well as that, selection dilemmas to be made. Look, who plays, who starts, who doesn't. I mean, obviously the right back issue. Does he stick with Frimpong or does he bring back Bradley? Frimpong was excellent first half, but then when Conor Bradley came on, he too was excellent. A nice problem for Arne Slot to have. Again, left back, I think Kerkez was excellent against Wolves. Second half perhaps tailed off a little bit. Or do you go with Robbo? What do you do there? Now, we played a 4-3-3 against Wolves due to the fact, obviously, we haven't got 2 fit strikers. We have 1 striker only. Also, does Chiesa play? I think probably Chiesa doesn't miss out in this game. I think especially with the return of Dom Szoboszlai. I think the probability is that we again see a similar formation or a similar team. Now, obviously, Cody Gakpo came back, played. I really hope that Arne Slot doesn't break up that partnership on the left of Jones, Kerkez and Wirtz, who have been absolutely excellent. Bringing back Gakpo there, who doesn't work well with Kerkez, I think would be a mistake going into this game. And a game that Liverpool do need to win. Look, we're 2 points clear of 5th place at the moment. We're in 4th place. A win against Leeds puts us 5 clear and consolidates ourselves in that 4th place. Given the fact that Chelsea and Manchester United both slipped up. So I think, look, for me, I really hope that Arne Slot doesn't break it up. I think he could do. I think he may bring back his favourite Gakpo. Look, personally, I wouldn't do it. I think the 3 that he's got there that have been playing left side for Liverpool, of Kerkez, Jones and Wirtz, have been absolutely outstanding, absolutely fantastic, and have linked so well. So I'm hoping that Slot sticks with something similar against Leeds. My team, if I was picking the team, would be Alisson in goal, back 4 of Frimpong, Konate and Virgil, because there is no one else other than those 2. Kerkez on the left. A midfield 3, I would go with McAllister. I would go with Gravenberch and Jones. Then I'd go with Szoboszlai on the right, although he could drop back into making that into a 4 or into a diamond. Wirtz on the left and Ekitike through the middle. That would be my team, guys. Let me know your thoughts and your team in the comments. In terms of that game, look, Liverpool can go out there. They've got to play with an intensity we haven't seen in past games, an aggression that we haven't seen in past games. Leeds will bring that intensity and aggression to the game, and we need to match that stride for stride. I think if we do and we play to the fullest of our potential, which we haven't done yet this season, arguably, I think it will be a game that we can easily win, but it could, as we saw earlier in the season, easily be a banana skin. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Liverpool victory. Guys, let me know your projections in the comments. Thank you for watching Liverpool FC Journal. If you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, guys, it's you that's going to help the channel grow. It's your channel. Your opinion matters. Thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you on the next one.